Hey everyone, it's Naima, and today we're going to be talking about emotional support animals. So before I get started, I'm going to say that I have an emotional support dog. Her name is Daisy. I've had her for about 12 years. She's 13 years old, and she has been my emotional support animal for about 4 or 5 years now. It's been ever since I moved up to Tallahassee for school. And so what made me decide that she would be my emotional support animal versus to be my pet is twofold. So first off, it was really, in the beginning, I think it truly was me just trying to make sure that I can bring my dog with me, whether it was because she was a pit bull. We have these whole aggressive breed restrictions, or if it was just me being in a place where they just didn't allow dogs. And so that was my initial reason in starting off with getting my emotional support animal. But as I continued and I ended up moving up to FAMU, I am extremely grateful that I had the forethought to do that, because I ended up being diagnosed with bipolar, and it was literally one of the worst experiences that I've ever gone through. The episodes, just not knowing what was going on, was horrible. But the one thing that continued to get me through it was Daisy, because no matter how messed up I was in the head, I still had to get up every day and take her outside. No matter how tired I was, I still had to give her some type of attention. No matter how much I didn't want to eat, I had to feed her, so I might as well just go down there and feed myself, So she definitely gave me a lot of purpose. She gave me a lot of reasons to continue with a schedule and to, not just sit in the bed all day. And so like I said, she was just an amazing factor for me, and I'm very grateful that she has become my emotional support animal. And so to be able to differentiate between an emotional support animal and a pet, I like to think of it when I first got Daisy. When I first got her, she was my pet. I took her for walks, we did our thing, everything was great. But I never relied on her for my mental health. She never supported me through my mental health. But as an adult, I definitely lean on her for support. She definitely does help me with my anxiety. She definitely does extremely helps me with my depression. So it's definitely a real thing. A lot of people don't believe emotional support animals are a thing, but it definitely is real. Because a lot of times we compare them to, there's 3 other types of support animals. And so we have the service dog, which most people are familiar with. They are trained to do particular tasks for individuals who are disabled. We also have psychiatric dogs, which is relatively close to a service dog. The only difference is they are attending to people who have severe psychiatric mental health disorders. So that's either people like me who have bipolar, people who have schizophrenia, and it helps them with reminding us to take our medication. It is able to monitor our behaviors and notify whether or not you were in a heightened emotional state. Now, how do they notify people? I'm not 100% sure, but these dogs be smart and they know how to tell somebody what's going on. But anyway, so another point is therapy dogs. Now, therapy dogs, I've actually had a lot of interaction with those. Those dogs are trained dogs that are able to go out into the community, whether it's hospitals, whether it's mental health facilities. I've even seen them in courtrooms, and their sole purpose is to reduce anxiety and stress. So they're not necessarily a psychiatric dog, and they're not necessarily a service dog, but they still do relatively the same role. And they're not necessarily an emotional support animal either, because they're trained. And so that's the main difference between emotional support animals and every other group that I just named. Emotional support animals are not trained to do any particular task, and I think that's why they don't like to give it as much credit. But the process in which I've obtained her as my emotional support animal is I had to go through a licensed mental health professional, and unfortunately many therapists, like with their own practice or are in another facility practicing up underneath another person. Sorry, y'all, my voice is all messed up. But anyway, they often do not like to complete the ESA letter, which is what supports you for having your emotional support pet. And so they often don't like to write that because a lot of reliability, which I understand, because it's like you write the letter. What if somebody's dog bites another person? You may be held liable. Who knows? So for me, I had to go through a website called US Service Dogs, I believe. I'll put the link down below. But the process was, I went through the website. I signed up for the package that I needed, which was the regular package plus the accommodation letter, which is what you really need. Everything else is fine. Like, you know, they give you the badges, the vest, they even give you like an actual like letter. No, I need the accommodation letter, and it has to say it up on the top, and that's normally the same form that housing authorities, whether it's your complex or private landowner, those are the forms that they're normally going to give you, and it's going to be the exact same form, if not very similar, that you're going to actually receive from the therapist. So like, you can get the form for the therapist and it will be relatively the exact same one that your landlord will give you. And so if your therapist gives you one, it should be okay. If not, your landlord will give you a paper and have the therapist fill it out. And so once I was done with that process, I will say it's relatively costly. I know it was between $250 and $300 that I paid in total. But the good thing is, once you pay that, you no longer have to pay again. So it's like, my letter technically does not expire, but many landlords will ask you to do it every year. So if you think of it like this, every year you're going to pay probably anywhere from like, I don't even want to say it'd be the whole price, because all you need is the letter again. So it'd probably be like $100 and whatever, a couple dollars, whatever it is. But either way, it's definitely going to be cheaper than having a fucked up mental health. And it's definitely going to be cheaper than paying all these freaking dog fees and stuff like that, especially when you legitimately do need emotional support animal. So hopefully with sharing my experience, that it's either destigmatizing it, because a lot of people don't agree with emotional support pets, and then as well as a lot of people just don't really have a lot of information. So I definitely implore you to do your own research and definitely check it out, see if it works for you, because it's extremely beneficial, and I don't think it could ever really hurt you in that situation. But y'all have a great one, and I'll definitely talk to you guys later.